Good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. There was a little hiatus last week for spring break, but we're back in action. This week, I had the privilege of meeting with Mr. Kaschub, who I met when he was doing his student teaching at our high school last year. And I invited him to chat with me about his first year teaching and also his experience through college as a music ed major. And then, of course, since we're both brass players, near the end we talk a little bit about brass playing and helpful music theory skills to have for that. A lot of fun stuff. I hope you enjoy. All right, let's get started. Hi.
All right.
Okay.
Hello.
So obviously I'm here with Mr. Kaschub, known to many as Dan. And basically how I know you is because last year you were a student teacher at my high school, and that was super fun. And we're going to talk a lot about your experience in college and also teaching this year. But before we get into that, can you just summarize your musical experiences throughout grade school?
Oh, well, I started playing trumpet when I was 7. My dad got me a cornet, which is a different type of trumpet. There's some rumors that it can be easier for beginners, but I don't think it's really that big a deal.
Oh.
I played some trumpet off and on from that age, and then I really started, of course, in 5th grade band, where my favorite song was "O Come All Ye Faithful." Remember that? Not really topping my charts these days, but that was a 5th grade bop.
Oh, yeah.
And then, music all the way through school, it just felt like it was a given. It was part of what I did, I go to band. I was a band kid through and through. Then college came around, and I applied to one school, and then my parents made me apply to another school that I had no intention of going to because they said you can't only apply to one school. But I knew that I wanted to go to USM. I knew that I wanted to do music ed. And so that's what I did. And it was a great time. I think we have a question later about professors parents as professors.
Oh yeah, we will talk about that surely.
And that was an interesting dynamic. But yeah, it's been, since 7 to 23.
That's quite a long time.
Music, yeah. And, some might say that I'm not as good as I should be, given how much time. And they might be right. But you know what? It's not.
Man.
And this is actually something I really believe. You should, especially if you're being paid to play for a professional, you need to be excellent. But music is not necessarily about excellence. It's about an experience, and it's about togetherness and joy and all of those happy things. And there's a part of it where it's performance and excellence. But if we focus on that too much, we lose sight of a lot of the positives.
That's so fair. That's
not me excusing my mistake.
You're not excusing not practicing.
Yeah, when I misread a key signature, that's my bad. That's not because of some deeper moral.
Oh, I did that. I literally did that in band today. I was so embarrassed. Now let's, I guess we're just going to go in chronological order. So next let's talk about music in college. And I'm curious, I didn't write this down before, so this might be on the spot. But when did you decide you wanted to major in music ed and that you wanted to be a music teacher? Or how did that come about?
It was more that I couldn't really see myself doing anything else. And that sounds like I wasn't excited about it. I've been excited about everything I've ever done, and I think that's a choice that you make to be excited.
That's so
Um,
true.
it's a choice that you make. But I enjoyed it for so long, and a lot of people you ask this question to, they'll have like some moment where they felt really included in the band room. I felt moderately included everywhere, and the band room was fun, and so I wanted to continue that and to keep it going. So music school was the next choice. I strongly planned on being a high school band director because I really loved the music and I like working with that age group because um, I really liked the transformations that happened to me when I was in
Yeah.
high school and how much more aware and mature I became. Not that I was mature in high school, but the difference between middle school and high school was huge. And I wanted to be there as a role model and mentor to students when they did that. But then I work in an elementary school now, so that's not what happened, but it's still a great time.
Yeah. Okay. Um, let's see. Oh, okay. So about the classes in college. So like, I've I'm going into music ed now, so like I've been looking at programs and like learning about all the classes that music ed majors are supposed to take and stuff like that. And one of the most interesting parts of the curriculum to me is the like instrument technique classes. So like there's string techniques and woodwind techniques and percussion and brass and like for all the different sections of the band, and there's like choral techniques sometimes too. So can you just like explain briefly what those classes are like, and then yeah, just go from there.
Yeah, so sometimes they call those your method classes.
Yeah.
Um, and they're honestly a great time because you'll come in with a class of people that have strengths and weaknesses. And even the people who seem like they've got all the strengths and no weaknesses, during your methods classes, you will find their weaknesses because, you know, there's always something like someone's going to have to play bassoon at some point and nobody do a good job. Um, but yeah, methods classes, they're kind of spaced out throughout your degree, and I think there is some thought put into it that maybe the harder ones go towards the end so that you've had more practice teaching yourself. Um, the first one was percussion techniques, um, and a lot of that was like some logistical learning because a lot of percussion is logistical. I mean, percussionists move stuff all around all the day.
Yeah.
Um, and I did mine during COVID, and I just remember submitting to Nancy, the teacher at USM, a video of me. I hadn't gotten a haircut in like 4 months because it was COVID lockdown, and I had a bandana over my head to keep the hair out of my eyes. I was there with my snare drums doing padiddles on top of a practice pad and a music stand with my cat in the foreground, and it was epic. Um, but yeah, so you percussion, that's where you kind of get started. But then, I struggled with the strings a lot, which is funny because I actually spent a semester working with the Portland Youth Symphony Orchestra, conducting. Um, Strings all but defeated me. I just it was really hard. Guitars, I'm including guitar in this. Guitar method is a completely separate class than string
Oh.
method. Um, but it was something about my hand. It was so frustrating. Um, but the cool thing is that you're in this cohort of music ed people, and you go through it together, and you struggle, and you succeed, and someone inevitably takes a video of you trying to play a chromatic scale on the violin, and all you can hear is, and it's just awkward and hilarious all at the same time. But yeah,
how many
methods classes are great.
how many people are like in those classes? Because I can't imagine it's a big class.
Well, it depends on your cohort. Like, if you come in a music ed cohort 40 strong and it stays 40 strong, um, yeah, they'd probably break it up. You'll never have more than 20 kids. But what inevitably happens is that people come in thinking they know what they want, and then they realize they don't, and you'll have some people drop. But my class was about 12 people, and it really depends on how many people are in your year, which can be quite variable. Um, but it's normally a tight enough group where you can all make fun of each other and have a good time as a team.
Nice. Um, and because you're a trumpet player, did you actually take brass techniques
Yes,
or
you
brass
cannot test
methods?
out of your methods courses because just because you're a trumpet player doesn't mean you know how to teach someone to be a trumpet
That's
player.
so true.
And that's the core of music ed, is that you can be the greatest musician of all time. It does not mean that you're even a good music teacher, you know? There's the saying like 50 has a way of forgetting 20, in that like older people might forget what it was like to be young.
Yeah.
Well, someone who's been playing trumpet for 20 years might forget what it's like to be a beginner.
Yep.
And I feel that I teach beginner trumpet right now, and it's actually I love every part of my job. But if I were to choose a least favorite, it's that, because
Oh.
it throws me back. Like they sound terrible. And I sounded terrible too. We all sound terrible when we start. Trumpet's one of those instruments that there's a decent period of awful noise that you're
And
gonna
you
make.
sound terrible loudly.
Yeah, you're loud and I don't know. It's been a long time since I sounded that bad. Not that I'm the best sounding player in the world, but if I'm teaching clarinet, I'm only a step or two ahead of those kids. And it's more engaging for me to work on my clarinet while they're, but
Yeah. I totally get that.
it can be frustrating. But learning how to do it, the best practices, lets you not only start people the best way, but diagnose different issues. Like I had kids start when I started. I had the mouthpiece perfectly centered on my lips because my dad was a trumpet player, and I got the buzz, and it just happened. It was effortless, and it went. Not every kid has the same lips. Not every kid has the same opportunity. And I had a kid this year that took 2 weeks to even get a buzz, right? And he's now doing a great job, right? But those method classes help you sort of diagnose and decode all these
Mm.
millions of issues that could happen with a student.
Yeah.
If the student's not getting a buzz, it could be 10 different things. And the methods class is where you learn that diagnosis,
Yeah.
and what to do about it too.
I feel that so like I teach beginner violin once a week, and I totally understand. Like, it's been a long, like not as long for me, but it's been quite a while since I was a beginner violinist. So I like sometimes I just forget about the things that you that I don't think about anymore because it's just second nature. Like just like
Mm-hmm.
how to hold the instrument. Like there's so many details, or like just any amount of details about playing the violin that are just very natural to me, but to someone who's never held one in their hand, it's the weirdest thing they've ever done.
And with kids, there's an added interesting point where they don't have the muscle definition that you have. I don't
Mm.
know how young your beginner violiners are, but me in the elementary school, we work with this. The the ability and skill with manipulating their own body
Yeah.
is not advanced at all. So it's not only that they're learning music, it's like I need to learn how to coordinate in a coordinated way, move my fingers up and down,
Yeah.
have my brain actually control that.
Yeah. And then the last thing about college that I was curious about is you obviously had two parents teaching music at the college you went to. And that's totally different from what most kids experience. So, how do you think that, like, did it enhance your experience or did it make it harder? Or, like, yeah, what about that?
So it was a bit of a mixed bag, off the gate. So every music student is considered for scholarships. And if you're music ed, one of the people that's your top scholarship arguer is the professor of music ed, who was not in the meeting during my scholarship debate. I'm really lucky because USM offers a half off tuition waiver if you have parents in the system. So I didn't need a scholarship. I was already extraordinarily lucky on that front. But that type of thing was a recurring theme. Um, so there were times where there were opportunities that I might have missed out on.
Mm.
Absolutely worth it because university is so expensive. Like just on the money end, worth
Amen.
any negative that could have happened. It was worth it. But hanging out with my parents was great, and getting to spend more time around them. My brother is very homesick. He lives in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful that I didn't do that, and I got to spend time with my parents. Um, the dynamic was interesting. If I had a question, I needed to email my mom, dear Dr. Kaschub, dear professor, and I need to go through the proper channels. It wasn't like I couldn't just come home into the kitchen and be like, "Hey, mom, like, am I taking violin techniques, this semester or this semester?" Like, no, you have to email me about that.
That's crazy.
There were many times where I'd walk into the house and my parents would awkwardly stop talking, because there's, obviously information that can't be shared with students. But besides that, it was just hanging out with your parents. I never took a class with my dad because he wasn't teaching much. It just announced he's stepping down from the director, and he'll be returning to the faculty. So
That's so exciting.
he'll be a theory lecturer
Oh my gosh.
and potentially other things. I don't know what else is in the works, but that's happening. But I never took a class with him. I took a few classes with my mom. But yeah, we sort of just played pretend. Keep a student relationship here.
Oh yeah.
Pretend that we're students. Maybe a few jokes about, my son over here,
Yeah.
mispronounce, teaching rhythm incorrectly. I don't know. But yeah.
Okay. And then at the end of college, as a music ed major, you do student teaching. You go into the public schools, or and teach alongside a experienced teacher. And so when I was like preparing for this, I asked my friends if they had any questions for you, and someone asked, Serena asked, which group of kids do you think is the most entertaining?
Oh, see, I read this. I was prepared for this. Well, I wasn't prepared. This is a hard one. Middle schoolers. I shouldn't start in the middle. That's unorganized. Elementary kids are hands down the cutest. Nobody holds a candle to them. They're just adorable. I asked a girl if she was doing sign language and the kids were swearing. I asked her if she was signing any bad words, and she said, "I'm just a little girl." And that was her whole defense, and she's totally right. She's just a little girl, and they're so adorable, which is great. And then they can get really excited about what's happening. Not that high school and middle schoolers can't, but there's a different, childlike magic. It's like a mixture of this is awesome and I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And you put the two of them together, it's like a magical experience. That magic fades as the kids get older. High schoolers, no offense, there's not a lot of magic, but that's, and I will go out of order. Now I'm going to go to high school. That is an exciting part about high school because it's all very real for high schoolers. It's very deliberate. If a high schooler's in your music class, it's probably because they want to be there.
Yeah.
Elementary kids, they're in their music class because that's where they were told to be, and their teacher brought them.
Yeah.
That's not a choice. It gets real with high schoolers, and they're wittier, so they can be. So high schoolers are going to be funnier than elementary school kids, I think, because they actually can construct some good humor. But here's the thing: middle school wins the spunk competition. You absolutely don't know what you're going to get. But middle schoolers, I mean, so I'll say my student teaching at Marshwood Middle School, week 2, the student asked my host teacher, Chris Bison, who is a legendary chorus teacher, and I have to take a moment to plug Chris Bison. Rap, pop music, intense social emotional learning in that music classroom. Those kids were very aware of themselves and how they were interacting with others. Just amazing stuff. And on top of that, musicianship all the time. It was a great experience for me. But there was this kid that came up to her and said, "Can I share something from home?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, of course. Share something from home." And this kid takes his backpack and he holds it, he unzips it, and he holds it upside down, and all of these like pieces of metal came out. And what this kid had done at home is he had melted down these aluminum cans, and he like poured the molten aluminum into a bucket of water, so like all these like water drops of metal, and he had it in his backpack, and he just dumps it out. And that is so, you
No
couldn't have
kidding.
guessed, right? Nobody could have said what was going to come out of that backpack, right? And that's sort of the thing with middle school, whether it's, a random show and tell. You absolutely can't predict what's going to happen next. You'd never know.
Mm-hmm.
And that can, it can spark in this really random comical moment where middle school. So here's my answer. High schoolers are funnier, right? They're going to be more entertaining as people, but you might encounter more hilarious situations
Yeah.
in middle school and elementary school.
Fair.
That's
Yeah.
what I'll say.
Okay. They're less intentionally funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a. No, never mind. Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Now we're gonna get into the actual teaching part. So this year is your first year teaching. So I wrote down a bunch of questions about first year teaching because I feel like a lot of people go through that experience and they have different experiences. So it'd be cool to interesting to hear about yours. So just on the basis of like what elementary music is like, because it's been a while since I was in an elementary music class. Um, what are the skills or like the goals of music at that level?
So I'll say that my elementary music class, for better or for worse, probably doesn't look like many others. I did not student teach in elementary music class, and I didn't get any practicum there either, which you will as a USM music ed student. But mine, when I would have, COVID was at its worst. So we
Oh yeah.
basically got to pretend to be elementary kids for each other over Zoom, which was hilarious, but not the true experience. So I kind of have to come up with everything fresh. I don't have much to go off of. I've learned the best practice and what our goals should be, but in terms of like specific activities and whatnot, that's all homebrew for me. I'm coming up as I go. But what is important for them to know? Number one thing, numero uno, most important thing is that they're having fun.
Bingo.
Because what we need to do is spark a lifelong passion for music. And the fact that, because next year they're going to go to the middle school and any engagement with music is elective. So if they're doing music in the middle school, it's because that's a choice. They could go all 3 years without anything. And then that it's very unlikely they're going to do anything with it in high school either, right? So elementary is where you get the bug started. So the kids' first order of business, they need to have fun. Every class has to be a great time, which is that's really not easy, right? To make sure, even if you're feeling down or you're like tired, those kids have to be having a good time. Next thing, rhythm. Rhythm is the absolute bone structure of music. And you would be surprised, I was surprised, to learn how much of rhythm is painstakingly taught or beaten into kids, literally beaten in, like holding a steady beat. There's no biological advantage. Evolution did not get us holding steady beats. Your elementary music teacher did, right? So that's hard work. That's through movement, dancing, listening. Steady beat is huge for especially the younger grades. And then you can kind of work with, you always practice it. I mean, high school, you'll see Mike Sakash asking the high school band to please play a steady beat, right?
High schoolers love to rush. They're eager to get everywhere.
Well, you think high schoolers love to rush. You wait, and you walk into a room of third grade and go, clap with me.
Yeah.
They're already a beat ahead. Like they're clapping together, but they're already.
So it never stops, is what we're saying.
But the rate of acceleration slows as the.
Okay, that's good.
So rhythm is foundational. We start, and in my own head, I kind of debate the tas and titis as opposed to one, two, and. Um, but I think there are some students that are really helped with the ta tt introduction. So you started as early as pre-K, kindergarten, working on ta ti 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 ta tika tika ta ti ti ta. And then in our district, and this will be different district to district where you actually scope this, we have our third graders transitioning to 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a, and what's challenging in teaching that is that I said every class has to be fun. And with those kids, all of their motivation and engagement comes from the teacher, pretty much. They don't really care to learn about 1, 2, and 3, and 4.
Oh yeah.
But getting that started is going to help them do extraordinary things when they're older. So I need to get them excited about that. So whether it's through team versus team, whether it's through some sort of using an instrument while we're doing the rhythms, like, I mean, they
Children
love,
love to hit things.
yeah, yes, they do. And well, be careful. You hand out the rhythm sticks and they're going to hit each other with them.
Oh yeah.
But there's all those tools that we have to get them excited about rhythm. So rhythm is thing number 2. And then thing number 3, and I'll quote Alan Kaschub, music theory is aural skills, right? Music theory just is aural skills. And well, every single one of my students would die of boredom if we tried to spell a 7th chord. They are excited to hear the difference between a major and a minor chord. And even more, they are excited to explain to me how music feels. And what is the point of learning music theory if not to describe how music feels? Right?
Yeah.
We learn those tools so that we can better understand and dissect, so that we can understand feeling and maybe replicate feeling, right? This helps us see and understand what we're listening to.
Yeah.
Well, elementary age kids can do that for sure. A pre-K student can absolutely listen and feel and describe that feeling. And then you might be able to add symbolism. So something I did recently, this was a great lesson. I love rap music, and I really want my students to know about rap. And this is a whole thing that I sparked in my district. Like, we need to teach the kids more about rap. Rap is like, if you look at the Billboard Top 100, how much of that is rap right now? So we did this form lesson with Kesha and Macklemore's Good Old Days. I wish that somebody would have told me that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And we put on a Canva presentation, we have Kesha here, and we have Kesha over here. And in the middle is Macklemore's rap. And we dissected the form of Macklemore's rap. And if you listen to rap, what you'll often have is one rhythm starts, it might be da-ga-da-da-ga-da-da. And then you'll immediately hear it again. Da-ga-da-da-ga-da-da. Da-ga-da-da-ga-da-da. And then you have a new rhythm. Da-ga-da-da-ga-da-da-ga-da-da-ga-da. Okay? And what that is that's A, and it's A again, and it's a B. And it's not exactly that, but what you can do with students is you can say, hey, who hears da-ga-da-da-ga-da-da? And then play it. Raise your hand when you hear da-ga-da-da-ga-da-da. And it's actually Macklemore rapping, right? And then they raise their hand. And I'm like, okay, now we need a picture to represent da-ga-da-da-ga-da-da. And we're going to add it to this thing in between the two Keshas every time we hear it.
Oh, yeah.
So my kids chose a donut. So we put the donut on, and then we put a second one on because it happens twice. And then we put an ice cream split on for the third rhythm. And in just that, you have very rudimentarily shown the structure of a piece of music. So we went through and we did that the whole way through, and we repeated the donuts when it repeated, right? And then we were able to, with a lot less effort than you would have needed prior to doing that, make our own rap that followed the model. So they got to
Uh-huh.
come up with their own rhythm, but they had to repeat it if Macklemore repeated his. So
Uh-huh.
they didn't necessarily need to copy the donut rhythm, but if there's two donuts on Macklemore's, then you need two, beach balls on yours, and that could be a different rhythm, but you need to follow the general outline. And what that actually made for my kids is they'll come up with lyrics super easily. It'll make no sense, but they'll come up with the words like that. And if you can get them to come up with words that fit that rhythm and that fit that scope that Macklemore did, these third graders will pump out like a rap product that their teacher comes to pick them up and is like, this is really good. Because the most foundational rules of like rap music and all music, it's all music. Um, Having those patterns and various things repeating, that's what makes it sound good. That's like the key to good flow in that music.
Yeah.
And the kids can absolutely understand that and they can absolutely replicate that. They just need it brought down to something that they can engage with. The kids are super excited to pick out a donut. And if you go on Canva, everyone who wants to be a teacher needs to get in on Canva.
All right.
Canva is epic, and if you're a teacher with your school email, you can get it for free. I do this symbolism thing, and I say donut, and they get to choose from like 20 different donuts, and they're super hyped and engaged. And you need to have something like that that engages those younger students. So, I mean, that's one of my best lessons, I think.
This reminds me, like, um following the structure of somebody else's music to create your own music. That's like, even in AP theory we did that. That's exactly what, like, learning counterpoint is like, we study 18th century, like, common practice period music, and study all what kind of styles did the composers use, and like what did they typically do, and then we just copy that and it sounds like that style of music. You
Yeah.
just have to copy all the same things that those composers do.
Now imagine you're in AP music theory and you're doing that for the first time, but wait, it's not actually the first time because you did that with Mr. Kaschub, Macklemore raps, and those connections are not
Oh
fully
my
fleshed
gosh.
out in your brain, but they do exist. So when Mr. Sakash is talking to you about Mozart, it is genuinely, and the studies will show, it's easier for you to understand that and grow off of that because those connections already exist in your head. And you've
That's
already done it to a
amazing.
slight degree when you were younger. And that's the whole game of elementary school. We're not
Mm-hmm.
producing superb musicians. We are producing people with the potential to become superb musicians.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, I thought this was a really good question. Caitlin asked, how do you deal with students who just have zero interest in the class or the music, who are just like not excited to be there at all?
It absolutely happens. It'll happen less with older kids because, as I said before, most of those classes are elective. But it absolutely does happen. And what I have found success with, um, so I have this one student in my mind, and she really struggles in my class. Often very mean to other students. So first, often not engaged with what we're doing because she doesn't care, um, and then is often mean to other students after becoming disengaged, and that's like a nightmare. That's the worst possible outcome. But I found out that this student really enjoys Dungeons and Dragons, and that they play with their parents after school. Um, and I run a Dungeons and Dragons campaign with my family every Sunday night. So I talked to the student
Oh,
about Dungeons and Dragons, and I showed the student my like online maps for D&D, and we talked about it, and we bonded, and we made a connection. So this student does not enjoy music, doesn't really care about it. But what the student does care about is Mr. Kaschub. Mr. Kaschub cares about music. So now I've sort of bridged the gap, and this student has the potential to be more engaged in music class, um, and it's not coming from the music; it's coming from me. And then music is awesome. There's nothing I need to do to music to make it awesome. Music just is awesome. So if a student is willing to try it, then they're going to enjoy it because it's awesome. So sometimes you just need to bridge the gap. And I think, it requires some social skill. Um, But I think that every teacher has the potential to build a relationship with a student and then use that relationship to sort of, to manipulate that student into learning something. It's manipulation. At the end of the day, that's what it is. I am gaslighting the student into learning. And that's what teaching's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna learn in music school. Gaslight your students. I wanted to know what it's like to grade elementary music, because that just like that seems absurd.
So the way I've described it, elementary schools are all about the formation of human beings in like the most basic way imaginable. And we diligently record all of that information. So someone's writing about this kid's ability to track words with their eyes, to track fingers with their eyes. Someone's recording the ability of this kid to throw a ball or catch a ball. From the PE teachers writing down whether this kid can catch a ball if it's coming at them from above or coming from below. And there's a difference. And the reason is we record all of this seemingly meaningless data, but if you aggregate it, it actually can paint a picture of a child's fuller development. And people more qualified than I can use that picture to diagnose students if there's something wrong, or to create IEPs, individual plans, individual education plans to sort of correct for some of the shortcomings. But in music, if I have a kid who is far behind the rest of the kids their age in steady beat, and then the reading teacher realizes that the student can't really stop sentences when they're supposed to stop, like that indicates a shortcoming in their learning about whether or not they can like stop thoughts and then start thoughts again, right? And so it's totally less about music and totally more about this is a growing human, and we're compiling all the possible information we can have from all the possible perspectives, so that we can paint a clear picture about how this person's coming along. Because, and a lot of people get upset about grades because they think that they silo kids, but you're doing you're shorting kids if you're failing to monitor them, because it means that you'll fail to catch if there's something that's taking away from them. So grading is good. Grading is good, and it might seem arbitrary. Okay, so I think, do you have any more questions about grading?
No, that was exactly what I wanted to hear. I didn't know what I wanted to hear, but that was it. That was very interesting.
I will say, on a more practical note, I have nearly 500 students because I teach K through 5 at 3 different schools. And when I put these grades in for students, it is a task. And what you will find if you're working in an elementary school is that you do not know the students' names, but you absolutely do know the students. Pictures in the grading software are your number one friend. I can look at a picture of a kid and fully understand how they are in my class, what their skills are. And that might seem to an outsider a little crazy, but we've all been musicians for so long. I can absolutely tell in my class, and we see these kids,
yeah.
And it becomes an understanding of where the kid is, and you combine that with some more formal assessment, but you want to limit your formal assessment in music class because it's about fun.
Yeah, that's not fun.
So, yeah.
I totally get the knowing a kid's face and not their name, because I choreographed a musical this for middle schoolers this spring, and like there was like probably 30 of them, and not until like probably the second month that I was doing this did I actually know all of their names. There's just like too many. But
names are hard.
But I could see a kid, and I know I know how they behaved the last time they were at rehearsal, and like not that it was bad, but like I knew what their personality was like. I knew like, oh, this kid I could depend on to go to the bathroom on their own, or like stuff like that.
Yeah,
or, like,
right, absolutely.
And maybe I there's a good chance I forgot their name, but yeah, I totally get that. I wanted you to talk a little bit about teaching your private lessons. Like you said, you teach trumpet. Do you teach any other instruments as part of the?
I do beginner trumpet and I do beginner baritone, and every now and then I'll sub for beginner everything else in the building. But yeah, beginner, it's mostly trumpet and baritone, and they're pretty similar. Um,
And
what did you want to know about them?
okay, how do you like? Do you incorporate music theory into the lessons, and then how do you do that? Because like, for example, in the violin lesson that I teach, it's not like I don't say like, okay, now we're gonna do music theory, but like we'll open up an exercise and it's in the key of D. So I explain what the key of D is, and like it has two sharps, and it's F sharp and C sharp, and like in the grand scheme, like explain how it relates to other keys, and then why it's important to know keys and stuff like that. So like it's not like necessarily planned, but it is there.
Yeah, well, so music theory is all music, really.
Yeah.
And music theory is aural skills. So here are a few ways that I do incorporate it. One, there's a lot of singing in my lessons because the trumpet players sound bad. You know, beginner trumpet players don't sound good. All of us. But we need to make sure that their aural skills are developing, and their aural skills need to be more advanced than their playing skills, because I really don't think your playing skills can ever overcome your aural skills.
Yeah, I
think
totally agree.
really possible.
Especially for brass players, I feel like that's so relevant. Oral skills are so relevant for brass players.
Yeah. So I might have a kid completely garbage can doo-doo a song, and I'll have that kid sing it. And you need to sing it. And my fifth graders are well versed in solfege, so they will solfege sing it.
No kidding.
We do sight singing every week, just like you did in AP theory.
That's a dream. I want to do sight singing. I want to do sight singing every week.
The kids can do it. It's absolutely, you need to teach them from scratch, but they can do it, and it's really good for them. But you also need to make it exciting. And honestly, that's where the manipulation comes in to play, because it's just not exciting for them. Like that's the other difference. High schoolers can get excited about something and want to chase knowledge. Elementary school kids are more concerned with, unfortunately nowadays, it's their iPads. But in general, they're more concerned with little kid stuff. Um, hold on, I went down a rabbit hole. Where were we? Music theory and beginner band. Yes. So singing is our music theory is aural skills, so that's a huge part. If I have trumpet players and a baritone player in the same room, and I say, baritone, you need to play C, trumpet, you need to play a B flat. No, sorry, other way around. Trumpet, you need to play C, and baritone, you need to play a B flat. And then those kids play the same note, and one of them looks at me and like, that's the same note. Yes, it is. So now we're talking about transposition.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about keys and all of that. And there's a level of music theory that you actually can't do that without the communication skills of like, well, you need to know that you're actually playing a transposing instrument and you're not. So when I say C to you and I say B flat to you, I'm actually talking about the same note on the piano, but you're playing something different. So yeah, those conversations come up all the time, and the kids do start to understand it. And also rhythm. Rhythm is music theory too.
Yeah.
So rhythm all day.
I want to keep talking for the last topic of discussion about brass playing and aural skills, because especially like audiation, I feel like is one of the most important skills for a brass player. And I really encountered this and like came into contact with it, especially when I started playing the horn, because it's it's really difficult and like and it's so easy to hit the wrong note that's very close to the right note, but it's not the right note. And so like what I had to start doing was like I was playing Big Fish, the musical, and I had to literally learn all my parts so that I could sing them to myself before I played them, or like hear it in my mind before I played them. Otherwise they would not come out right. And I had to do that for every single note in the whole musical. Yeah. And it's like, and it just took a lot of practicing. Yeah.
Aural skills are huge for brass playing. absolutely huge. And you know, it's huge for every instrument if you're
Yeah.
trying to play in tune.
Yeah.
Playing in tune, you need to be able to sing it, and then the same pitches that you would have sung are what come out of your instrument. That's the key to playing in tune, because everyone can strike a note and then be like, oh, that's wrong, and then change it, but that doesn't sound good.
No,
It needs to be right when the note starts, right? And that's aural skills. But definitely brass playing. I mean, you think about Big Fish and those hits. Um, that was a challenge for me, especially given the fact that I had been teaching baritone lessons.
Oh.
So like I would play a baritone lesson, then come play Big Fish after playing the baritone, and I would look at like an A on top of the staff, which is not crazy high in the trumpet range, but it's in the that's one of the harder ones to hit, because if you're talking about a C, and if that's near the top of my range, then that's easy. I don't need aural skills. Just play as high as I can.
Okay.
You know, that's as high as I can play. That's it. But in A, you know, I could miss this one. I could shoot too high. I could shoot too low. So
Yeah.
I need to know. Like I need to in my head, bum, bum, and then
Yeah.
it will come out. Yeah.
And like in band too, this semester I played horn exclusively, but even when I'm playing like, you know, trombone, which is my primary, I've been like, if we open up a new piece to sight read or something, the first thing I do is sing it in my head and like sing all the intervals and like the rhythms and everything and get the tune in my head even before I do anything on my instrument, because that way like it just comes out sounding way better the first time.
Yeah, and the French horn is the absolute worst end of that spectrum. It's the hardest one to get those pitches. I might trumpet could be next.
Dude, when I started playing the trumpet after having played an entire musical of horn, I said this is the easiest easiest instrument I've ever played on my first try. And I was like, there's no way that's this easy.
Yeah. Do you know why, right? Because the horn is playing
it sits in yeah, it's like in the all of the overtones series. It's like in the higher part or something.
So I'll say I had the first lesson with a trumpet teacher, the trumpet teacher at USM, Dr. No. I came to him with a complaint about my high range. I feel like I didn't have any high range, and he was doing a demo, and it was one of the first things I saw him do. He played a C major scale, starting on low C, first note, and then he played the next octave, pretty basic, and then he played the next octave, which is not basic. That next octave doesn't exist. But you know what the crazy thing is? He didn't press any buttons when he did it.
Oh.
Because that high in the range, you don't need them.
No, yeah.
Right?
It's like natural horn.
I think he maybe did D, but then he just held it. Right? You don't need to,
oh my god.
You're up so high in the range that it's basically you're just playing into the mouthpiece at that point.
When I first discovered as a trombone player that that's what the upper range was like of brass instruments, blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. I had no idea. And I was like, there's no way this is real. How come the notes are getting so close together?
Yeah. But anyway, I have to make it to a
yes.
choral concert
Please.
Right now. So
a choral concert?
Yes, my mom's doing the chorus this semester.
Oh my word, that's so exciting. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. That was really fun.
Thanks for having me so late. And, you know, I don't know how many questions I didn't answer, but if a part 2 is needed, I'm open.
You might have to come back someday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
See ya.
Having me. See ya.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to the episode. I'm popping in here at the end just to let you know that I will be taking a break from this project for an undisclosed amount of time because the capstone presentation for this project is coming up soon on May 2nd. If you're in the area, please do come and check it out. There's a lot of fun projects by me and other seniors. And so I'll be working on that for a while. I hope to be back someday soon with more content for you guys. And I've just had a really fun time on this project, and I thank everyone who listens for doing that. All right. See ya. As always, theme music is composed and arranged by Isaac Houghton. The musicians are Mike Sakash on tenor and alto sax, Brian Lucy on baritone sax, Quinn Haggerty on trumpet, me on trumpet and trombone, Ethan St. Pierre on the kit, and Isaac on bass. The cover art is painted by Sierra Rollman. My social media manager is Olivia Wentworth, and the recording equipment is from the FA Arts Department. Thanks to Mr. Swayze for teaching me how to use this equipment, and of course, thank you to my amazing theory teachers who have inspired me to pursue this project. I hope to see you again sometime in the near Thursday future.